Nancy Drew is an iconic character. She was first introduced in 1930 when the Nancy Drew mystery series were published, and since then she's been very popular, and a lot of different adaptations were made of Nancy Drew, including movies and TV series and even video games. Because there's so many adaptations of Nancy Drew, all of which present her character slightly differently, I want to present my analysis of the core version of Nancy Drew, which include qualities that have remained true throughout all these different versions of her. And these are that at her core, Nancy Drew is independent, she's brave, and she's persistent. For this, I'll be focusing on 5 different versions of Nancy Drew. First is the Nancy Drew in the 1959 version of the novel, but specifically Book 2, The Hidden Staircase. Then the Nancy Drew in the 1977, The Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew Mysteries. Then Nancy Drew in the 2002 Nancy Drew movie. Then Nancy Drew in the Nancy Drew Drew's Clues 2007 movie. And then lastly, Nancy Drew from the Nancy Drew and the Hidden Staircase 2019 movie. In The Hidden Staircase, Nancy Drew is investigating a ghost case surrounding Twin Elms, which is a mansion owned by Miss Flora. She stays overnight at the mansion and tries to gather clues about the ghost. At the same time this is happening, her dad, who's a lawyer, is working on a case surrounding the building of a railroad. And a man named Nathan Gomber warns Nancy that her dad is in danger because he's working on that specific case. While she is staying over at Twin Elms, her dad did not come by like he said he would, and she finds out that he was kidnapped. She continues to go on trying to solve the ghost case at Twin Elms while also trying to find her dad. In the end, she finds that the ghost at Twin Elms was Willie Wharton, a man that her dad was trying to find regarding the railroad case. And the man that was behind the whole kidnapping her dad thing and the ghost thing was Nathan Gomber. In this novel, Nancy shows she is independent in the way she thinks. She makes a lot of connections by herself and doesn't tell the other characters. But as readers, we get to see her thought process. For example, there are a lot of ghost events that happen in the mansion, and one of these events is when the chandelier is swaying side to side. And when this is happening, Nancy immediately thinks of a possible cause. In the book, it says, Nancy's eyes quickly swept the room. Nothing else in it was moving, so vibration was not causing the chandelier to sway. As it swung back and forth, a sudden thought came to the young sleuth. Maybe someone in Miss Flora's room above was causing the shaking. And this was on page 34. After this, Nancy ran upstairs and tried to find the ghost. In this, we, the readers, get to go through Nancy's thought process with her, but the other characters in the room, who are Helen, Miss Flora, and Aunt Rosemary, did not know what Nancy was thinking until she told them later. So she is independent in her way of thinking and making connections by herself. But sometimes she does tell the other characters her thought process out loud. For example, after she proved that someone can cause the chandelier to sway upstairs, she said, "The question is, are the 2 ghosts in cahoots, or it's just possible there's only one? He could have disappeared from Miss Flora's room without our seeing him, and somehow hurried to the first floor and let himself out the front door while we were upstairs." Although Nancy is saying this out loud to other characters, she still is asking these questions by herself, and she's still making these solutions by herself, which makes her independent in this way. Nancy is very brave because she doesn't hesitate to look for the clues and go after the ghosts. One of the many ghost events that happen in the mansion is music playing randomly in a different room from where everyone else is at. When they hear violin music playing, Nancy immediately got up from her seat and went to the room which was upstairs. And the book even said that she got there in 5 seconds, which is crazy because the room is upstairs and it's a mansion, so it's pretty big. And I think this just shows that she's extremely brave because she got there extremely fast, and she got there knowing that the person who set the music off is a person that's hiding somewhere in the mansion. She willingly puts herself in danger because she is so passionate about finding the ghost and helping Miss Flora and Aunt Rosemary. This also shows that part of her bravery is due to her protectiveness over Miss Flora and Aunt Rosemary. Lastly, Nancy is persistent because she experiences a lot of failures while trying to catch the ghost at Twin Elms, but she keeps going anyway. She even says herself that she's a little disappointed that they aren't further along solving the mystery, on page 62. But even after saying this, she goes to bed and thinks about a possible secret exit in the attic. Although she gets a lot of clues that don't lead to much, and she sometimes feels disappointed in their situation, she doesn't give up and she still thinks hard to try and solve the case. In this 1977 movie, Nancy is investigating the ghost in the abandoned lighthouse in her town. This is when a man, Professor Walls, buys the lighthouse under the fact that he's studying under this Psychic Research Foundation and wants to look into the ghost. Later, Nancy finds out that he is actually there to find treasure. And in the end, she finds out that he was just using the treasure as a way to justify how he got so much money in such a short amount of time, because he hijacked a plane. In this movie, Nancy is independent in the way she connects a lot of the clues and dots together by herself. And this is similar to the novel. She doesn't really say her thoughts out loud to her friends or to the audience really, until she reveals it later. And one specific example of this is when her and George are staying overnight in the lighthouse with Professor Walls, and ghostly things are happening.
Nancy! Nancy!
But suddenly, Nancy stands up and turns off the stereo that was playing the scary sounds.
Mine's not so bad either. Ghosts of the lost galleons who haunt the tower on the cliff, be gone! What happened?
She exposes the professor for faking the ghost and says that she guesses he did that because he wanted to find the treasure. George and even the audience did not know this until she stood up and stopped the stereo, meaning that she figured it out herself. Another way she shows she's independent is when in the beginning, she and George break into the lighthouse. They get in and George wants to quit, but Nancy insists on going in further, and she even goes up the stairs.
Oh, not by yourself? Why? What for?
George, if bats can get in, there has to be another entrance.
Not necessarily large enough to let a human being in.
Whatever it is, I want to know.
In this, Nancy is brave for going further into the lighthouse, despite also getting scared by the bat. She is also persistent because she insists on going further into the lighthouse, even though George said that she didn't want her to keep going by herself. At the end of the movie, Nancy goes to confront Professor Walls about his lies, and she brings forth information about him, some that the audience didn't even know about because, like I said earlier, she connects dots independently. For this part, she's brave, extremely brave, because she's confronting the villain by herself, and this causes
They give you life for murder?
Unfortunately, Nancy, they also give you life for hijacking an airliner. Nancy.
she gets chased all the way to the edge of a cliff. And although this was very dangerous and a big risk to her life, Nancy is very courageous, and she knows that she can get in trouble with Professor Walls, but she still states her evidence against him because she wants to do what is right, showing that she's persistent through this as well. In this 2002 movie, Nancy Drew is a journalism student who is investigating a case to write a story and hopefully get featured on her school's newspaper. She's looking into a case about a football player named Jesse who fell into a coma due to abusing performance-enhancing drugs. And she's looking into his fiancée Allison, who is sorority queen of Tri Pi, and she's also a pre-med student, so she is suspected of supplying him with the drug. Eventually, due to Nancy's investigating, Allison gets kicked out of the university. This causes Nancy to rethink her story, and in the end, she releases a story about the school encouraging football players to take the performance-enhancing drug. In this version of Nancy Drew, she's looking and creating a story for a paper. She is independent in this way because she is looking for evidence herself, and she only really asks for help when she needs it for the case. A lot of the evidence that she uses is through interviews.
Now I wanted Uncle Sergeant Bresney to tell me what you were doing at the Tri-Pie House today. But since you so kindly volunteered to assist me, I'll just say my journalistic queries to you directly. And, I'd like to ask you a couple of tiny questions.
You need to go right now.
All right. You got 5 minutes. Ready, set, go.
Okay, I wanted to ask you about... Did the school know about the use of ephedrine?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, if it had known, would it have condoned it?
Under no circumstances.
Even with the pressure the team has this season to win?
She goes to these people by herself and asks questions to create a full story. As Nancy is trying to find clues for her story, multiple people tell her not to write it because it puts her and her future at risk.
Look, Miss Drew, you're barking up the wrong tree. There's no story here.
Please don't write that story.
So whatever you're doing to take them all, stop it!
There's a girl, Allison Price. I'm pretty sure she's going to be made the fall guy for the athletic department.
Forget it.
You're not actually going to write this.
Of course I am.
Nancy, you can't put yourself at risk like that.
Dad, I'm writing an article for the school newspaper.
It threatens the reputation of the athletic department, the goodwill of the alumni, the financial future of the school. You think they won't seek retributions?
No, I'm telling you, you can't risk your entire future on this story.
But Nancy is persistent and keeps going to find clues and interview people anyway, despite all these warnings. When her investigation eventually gets Allison expelled from the university, Nancy realizes her mistake and turns her story around to expose the school for encouraging football players to take the performance-enhancing drug. In this, Nancy Drew is very brave for standing up against the school. She's risking her academics and future in the school by doing this, and despite that, she wants to fix her mistake and do what is right. Like earlier when she is interviewing people and trying to find clues for the new story, they reject her and tell her not to write it. But this time, she is persistent, but for a different story and a different reason. She wants to do what is right and does not want to give up. In the end, Nancy is able to release a story that exposes the school for encouraging football players to take the performance-enhancing drugs, despite the risk. She is able to do this because of her independence, her bravery, and her perseverance, all of which show her great passion to do what is right even if she makes mistakes. In this 2007 movie, Nancy Drew is a high schooler that moves to California for her dad's job. And right at the beginning of the movie, she helps capture these thieves and gets off the roof with this rope thing. And she promises her dad to not sleuth anymore after that. But her dad doesn't know that she picked a house that came with a mystery that revolves around the death of a famous actor named Delia Draycott. When Nancy starts investigating this case, people try to kill her. But in the end, Nancy finds out that Delia's manager at the time killed her because she wanted to quit acting, and she was able to give Delia's daughter her will. In this version of Nancy Drew, she has friends that follow her around and help her solve the case. But she is able to show her independence in this way by acting like a leader for them when they go solve the mysteries. For example, when Nancy is trying to find the Chinese box that Delia hid her will in, she took her friends to the Chinese box shop and told them what she was looking for, and then got their help in trying to find the right Chinese box.
Everybody pick a row. Check inside each box. We're looking for a will.
Despite being with the others, she shows her independence in other ways by being a leader and making decisions. After trying to find the Chinese box, Nancy finds a literal bomb in her car that's about to explode.
Do you hear something? No, I mean, are you two like a thing? Excuse me, I have to defuse this bomb. Ugh, no kidding. Love is a battlefield.
She's able to think fast and throw it into a manhole before it explodes. Nancy shows her bravery in scenes like that, where she is in danger but remains calm and thinks fast about what to do. Another example of this is when immediately after the bomb explodes, she gets up and chases after the villains in her car. In this car chase, she risks her life to chase down these villains. In this scene also,
It really gets my goat when someone tries to kill me. It's so rude, but it only makes me want to try harder.
By saying this, she is brave because despite so many attempts of people trying to kill her, she keeps her head up and she stays focused on the mission to solve the mystery. This also shows her perseverance because she keeps going despite all these attempts of people trying to stop her and trying to kill her. Nancy is very persistent because she is driven by her passion to help others. In this case, she is helping Delia and her daughter Jane. And Nancy even states this herself when her dad finds out that she's been sleuthing despite promising not to.
I mean, the idea of a girl out there without her mom. Delia wanted to leave Jane the estate, and I found the will. Like you always say, others first.
At the end of the movie, Nancy is able to get Delia's evil manager arrested by recording his confession. In this, she is very brave because she faces the villain, but is able to remain calm and prevent him and his buddies from killing her. This Nancy is very smart and very passionate in doing what is right by being independent and finding clues, being brave in the face of danger, and being persistent despite everyone trying to kill her. In this 2019 movie, Nancy Drew moves to River Heights after the death of her mother. She is a rebel. She goes against the police, and in the beginning,
Eric Barnes, welcome to Thunderdome! When you humiliate others, there will be consequences.
But anyway, Nancy comes upon a woman named Miss Flora and her great niece Helen. Miss Flora has supernatural things happening in her home, and Nancy wants to help figure out the ghost case. While trying to solve the ghost case and staying at Miss Flora's house, Nancy's dad gets kidnapped. And at the end of the movie, Nancy finds out that her dad's friend, Nate, is the one behind kidnapping her dad and also behind all the supernatural things happening in Miss Flora's house. When Nate tries to run away, Nancy makes him drink chemicals that he used to make Miss Flora hallucinate all the supernatural things. This gets him arrested. In this movie, Nancy is very independent from the police, and she shows this by being a rebel and getting in trouble with the police often, but also by not asking them for help. There's a scene where she's doing community service and then she just leaves despite the deputy yelling her name. So she is very much a rebel to the police. Another way she is independent is by being different from other girls. This movie makes it a point to show that her and her friends, Bess and George, are different from other people. It is especially clear in the ending line.
Now, from now on, I just want to sit back, talk about boys, Instagram, do my nails. What? Just kidding.
But this shows that despite being different, Nancy is not ashamed of it. Nancy is also very brave, and she shows it not just by being different from other people, but also by solving the case at Miss Flora's house. When she was staying over with Miss Flora and Helen, they experienced the supernatural things that Miss Flora was talking about. And when the ghost exposes itself, Nancy jumps at the opportunity to chase after it, and she even hurts herself while doing so.
Oh, cover your eyes, girls!
Why?
Just trust me!
Nancy! Ow!
Even though Helen and Miss Flora were scared, Nancy kept going after the ghosts and putting herself in danger. Part of Nancy's persistence in this movie is being brave. This is because she feels like catching the ghost a lot of the time, and she even faints while doing it.
Who's scared now, Nancy?
But she still goes back and keeps trying to catch it, despite this happening. This shows her persistence in addition to her bravery. Part of her persistence is also expressed in the way that she is a rebel, People think that she's weird and different, including people at Bess and George's school, Helen in the beginning, and the police. But despite this, she's not ashamed of herself and she continues being who she is, which is brave of her as well. Based on these examples I've given you through these different versions of Nancy Drew, it's obvious that there's certain qualities that make up her character, specifically independence, bravery, and persistence. So the question is, what makes these qualities so timeless? What makes us keep coming back to Nancy Drew and why she's still so popular? I believe the answer is that Nancy Drew stands as a role model for many people, specifically many young girls. The qualities of her character are what make up a good person, and this is what society keeps up with because generally people want to be good people. They want to be passionate and do what they want without judgment from others, and this is why her character is so important and timeless because she's just simply doing what she wants. She also makes mistakes, which shows us that it's okay to do so. And to put it simply, Nancy Drew inspires people to do good.